is just like a kitten, Archie tells me, quite rattling your knees. No, I did that last time, twice. Quit rattling your knees or you'll brain it to death. Sure enough, the dragon begins to purr, real soft, like the 20th Century Limited on a clear track. It looks up at me and all at once it grins. Isn't that sweet, says Larry. See how affectionate it is? I know a character back in town who smiles like this, I mention. He recently fried for bumping off 3 old ladies with a butcher's cleaver. Go ahead, pat it on the head. It's perfectly safe, says Archie. I feel about as safe as a peace treaty with Hitler, but I reach down and run my hand over the dragon's scaly noggin once or twice. Then I smile, more in relief at getting my hand back than at anything else, and it smiles at me again. For the first time I notice it has blue eyes. They are very pretty eyes for a dragon. A sort of baby blue. They remind me of a dame I once knew, name of Daisy the fish. Love at first sight, Archie says, sighs. All right, now we have our first sight, and what do we do with this overgrown chameleon? What do we do about it, yells Larry. What do we do about it, he hollers, running around the hay pile. Why, listen, man, don't you realize what you have here? A hangover. A hangover? You've got $1 million, that's all. A cool million. I don't even see a hot penny, I tell him. Listen, Larry stops running and begins to wave his arms. You are the owner of the only live dragon in captivity. A real flesh and blood dragon. The only one I ever seen in the world for certain. No, for centuries. No, for centuries, eh? Don't you realize what this means? Do you realize, Larry? Do you? Think of the science, says Archie. I rather think of the million, I answer. That's just what I'm telling you, Larry breaks in. You know that Gargantua the circus carries around? Oh, you know that Gargantua the circus carries around? You mean the big ape who looks like La Guardia? La Guardia? Is that what it says? Sure, where they pay thousands of dollars just to show such an attraction. Think of what they give you to have a real live dragon to exhibit. Well, I'll be rich. Just leave it to me. That was Larry. So that is how it works out. We're just a salesman for a stunt like this, Larry tells me. We'll head for town and handle the business end. Straight 25% will contact circus people and set a deal. It may take a couple of weeks or so, but don't worry. Just take care of our baby here. See that it gets enough to eat, and above all, keep it out of sight. Whatever you do, no word of this must be leaked to anyone. I gotta hide out here and play house with this lizard? I squawk. Think of the money in it, Larry comes back. You've got a fortune if you do what we tell you. So he and Archie borrow my truck and head for town, and I am left with a dragon on my hands. Sounds good to me. I do not know if you ever have a dragon for a visitor, but it is not such a situation I am equipped to handle. I begin to wish right away that Merlin gives a little advice along with his present, or at least sends me a book on the care and feeding of dragons. Because I can tell at first glance that this dragon is hungry. Not 5 minutes after Larry and Archie clunk off, the dragon begins to look at me with those big baby blue eyes, and I know something has got to be done. After all, it is only a moppet, so to speak, and you have to take care of moppets. I never bring up a brat myself, but one thing I realize is that kids are always hungry, particularly when they cry. which is just what this dragon starts to do when it looks at me. Its eyes blink, and out comes 2 tears about the size of footballs. This is adorable. I just stand there and listen to it bawl, soft and low, like a dive bomber. Fuck, I look ragged. Like a dive bomber. I am helpless, but absolutely. I cannot bounce this baby up and down on my lap. I cannot make faces at it either, because its own face is more peculiar than anything I can dream of. I cannot give it a rattle either, except with the old teeth, because I am still a little afraid of the thing. What I need, I decide, is a drink. Of course you do. Of course you do. Where the fuck am I? So I rush into the house and open the icebox. All I find is a case of beer. But this is an emergency, so I open a couple of bottles and decide to sit down and think. Then I hear a noise from the barn. Grabbing the case of brew, I rush back out. But how you going, Teddy? But it is only the dragon crying louder. It stands there and blubbers like a baby snivelling for its bottle. That gives me the old idea. Bottle? I haven't got any dragon milk, but I have got beer, so I open another bottle and pour it down the dragon's throat. You prick. This time... So I open another bottle and pour it down the dragon's throat. This turned out to be just what the doctor ordered. One gulp and the beer disappears, and the dragon smiles. I smile too. Then I hear another gulp. The foolish thing has swallowed the bottle, but it keeps right on smiling. So that is the way things are, I say. All right, help yourself. And I push over the case of beer. The dragon gets to work. In about 5 minutes, it has swallowed 18 bottles. I go back to the house for another case. Also, I call up Thin Tommy's Tavern and ask Thin Tommy to send over a couple of dozen cases of the vile brew right away. Holding a party? Asks Thin Tommy over the phone, but I do not answer. I remember that Larry and Archie asked me to keep my mouth shut. This is always a good idea when speaking to Thin Tommy. Anyway, yeah. If you open your mouth in front of him, he is liable to steal your teeth. Yeah. So I just hang up, relieved. So I just hang up, relieved. If I can nurse his dragon on beer, it solves a lot of problems. And the way it drinks, I do not even have to bother with piling up empty bottles. Still and all, one other problem does bottle... No. Still and all, one other problem does bother me a little. I get to wondering if this thing is housebroken. I am just going to call uptown for a couple of pup tents in case I run out of diapers when I hear another noise from the barn outside. It is a voice laughing. This time I make the trip back in nothing flat. I am not a moment too soon either, because there is a there is a kid standing at the barn door looking in. He is a little tow-headed shrimp about 8 years old, hardly tall enough to reach up and gonif your watch. I don't know what gonif means. What does that mean? G-O-N-I-F-F. Never fucking heard it before. But that's the second time this fucking guy said it. He is laughing and giggling, and when he sees me turn around... Oh, he's laughing and giggling when he sees me turn around. Look, mister, he says, the dragon has the hiccups. I look, and it is a fact. The dragon has the hiccups. It is standing in the barn and hiccuping like mad. What makes it peculiar is the fact that every time it burps, a little spout of fire comes out its nose. Gee, it looks funny, laughs the kid. I stare at him. Aren't you afraid, Small Fry? I ask. The kid keeps right on laughing. What should I be afraid of? About, he asks. It's only a dragon, isn't it? I read about them in books all the time, unless, of course, you're a wicked wizard or an ogre. But you don't look like an ogre. No, hey, Tommy. Hey, buddy. Okay. But you don't look like an ogre to me. Thanks, Small Fry, I say. And my name isn't Small Fry, it's Edgar, says the kid. Edgar what? I'm not supposed to tell you, because if I did, you'd send me home, and I've run away from home. The kid gets out. Run away? I say. You mean took it on the lam? What's the matter? Does your old man put the boots in you? Boots to you? Whoa. Does the old man put the boots to you? You mean beat me? No, of course not, Edgar says. Only I want to seek adventure. And I guess I found it, haven't I? Guess you have. This story's really cute. I don't do anything... What? I don't do any guessing myself. Instead, I give this little tow-headed Edgar another look. He is not a hick type that I see. He is dressed to the ears in a swell Kuppenheimer Jr., which is a little dusty from travelling. I see his folks must be up in the tax list from his manner of gab, which is very high class. But what puzzles me is why he is not afraid of this dragon. Yeah, me too. You mean to tell me you aren't scared by this fire-breathing monster? I ask. Doesn't this thing with the hot halitosis give you the shivers? Edgar shakes his noggin. Of course not. I'm used to animals. Why, back where I live, Then he stops and smiles. But I'm not going to tell. I give him another stare. That is old but cold. Listen, Edgar, I say kindly. It will please me extremely if you go back to your old man before I am forced to do something rash, like kicking your teeth down your throat. Fuck. Edgar keeps on smiling. You can't fool me, he says. You aren't an ogre. I'm not the head of an orphanage asylum either, I tell him. I am not running a boys' town. I am just a chicken farmer, understand? I have nothing at all to do with the rackets these days, and I am not getting mixed up with any runaway dead-end kid. It is bad enough I've got to get a dragon today without singing Sunny Boy to a moppet. Edgar gets the drift of my remarks all right, because he puckers up his little puss like a sponge and begins to spring a leak from the eyes. You don't like me, you're sending me away, he bawls. That is the general idea, urchin. Go urch someplace else. And just when I was going to have such adventures, Edgar sniffles. Now when I tell people about your real live dragon, they won't believe me. Oh, this is something I do not figure. If I send the kid away, it will mean he spills the story about the dragon to somebody he meets. It is, as Mr. Hines puts it, a very pretty pickle. So I go over to Edgar and pat him on the shoulder. Do not drizzle, so I console him. Maybe I change my mind. After all, I need somebody around to take care of the dragon for me while I keep the farm going. Besides, it seems to like you. So how about playing stable boy to the baby here? You really mean I can stay? You really mean I can stay? And take care of the dragon and feed it everything? Edgar is so excited he hugs me around the knees, knocking them together severely. Ouch, certainly. Then Edgar has to go over and hug the dragon. It is a pretty good blueprint for a nightmare to see the kid with his arms around that green head and the fire shooting out of the dragon's mouth when he lets go with a hiccup. I don't want to stop reading. This is a really good story. I really love it. But Edgar does not seem to mind. In fact, you would think from the look on his puss that he has his arms around Betty Garble. Betty Grable? Betty someone? And the dragon lets go with another smile, this time showing enough teeth to supply the entire Japanese army. He likes me, squeals Edgar. See, we get along fine. By the way, mister, what is his name? Name? I reply. I do not give him a name as yet. How do you expect him to come with you, come when you call him, if he hasn't got a name? Asked the kid. What makes you think I ever want to call a dragon? I answer, but the Muppet insists. We can call him Herman, he decides. All right, make it Herman, I tell him. You want I should christen him by breaking a bottle of beer over his head? Fuck, this guy's a prick. Kind of pissing me off. Just a little bit. The kid gives me a funny look while he pats Herman on the neck. I can't figure it out, mister, he says. You don't act or talk like a magician, but you must be one, or how would you know... Oh, no, I'm sorry. Or how would you own a dragon? I am just a farmer, I say. I wish you to forget all this double talk about magicians and wizards and what all. Then I make a dive for the hay, but I am too late. The urchin gets there first and picks up the note from Merlin, which he reads. Boy, he remarks. Oh boy, you can't fool me, mister. This note proves you're a sorcerer. Listen, Edgar, I mention sweetly, holding out my arm. This fist proves you got a black eye unless you forget what you just read. If you want to stay here with me and take care of Herman, you must keep your lip buttoned. For certain reasons I do not wish anyone else to know, I possess this dragon, you understand? Edgar smiles. Maybe you're afraid of an enemy enchanter, he suggests. Maybe, I say. Maybe. Just then I hear a car honking in the yard. I go to the door and take a squint. It is Thin Tommy Maloon bringing me the beer I order. So I turn around to Edgar and give him the old whisper. You are right, I tell him. I am afraid of an enemy, whatever you call it. In fact, he arrives now. So it is up to you to keep yourself and Herman out of sight until he goes away. I do not desire a peep out of you or a burp out of Herman. At which mention Herman lets go with another burst of anti-aircraft from the tonsils. Oh man, that's awesome. This is awesome writing. It's excellent. Shove a bottle of beer down his throat, I advise. Fuck. It's good writing, but the main character's a dickhead. But then Thin Tommy honks his horn again, so I go out to the yard. He is sitting in his truck, and when I come up, he gives me the old once-over. I figure you were in the house all this time, he says. What are you doing in the back? The new catalogue arrives today, I explain. Great. Thin Tommy just grunts. Eh. It is a normal sound because he is built like a hog. He's built like a hog with a strain of wild boar. He is called Thin Tommy because he weighs in at 300 pounds on the latest police blotter. Besides being a very unpleasant hunk of lard to look at, he is also an unpleasant personality to do business with. He runs his tavern, but also throws the scare into local yonks, so they pay him protection money in these parts. In fact, Thin Tommy is what is vulgarly termed a hoodlum. My own term for him would be about 20 years. Would it? You're the one feeding alcohol to a baby, mate, so shut the fuck up. It is for these reasons that I do not wish him to find out that I have a living dragon on the premises. Else he is liable to get his two triggers Bertram and Roscoe, to put the old fingaroo on it. So I make dumb and say, where is the beer? Right here in the truck, thing Tommy tells me. You holding a party? No, I say, not exactly. You're gonna drink 24 cases of beer yourself? Well, I begin. Just then, another burp comes from the barn. It sounds kind of mournful and impressive, like Louis Armstrong on the trumpet. What in purple blazes is that goful blatting? Inquires Tin Tommy. I think fast. I just buy a couple of cows, I tell him. I never hear a cow make a sound like that, he scowls. Holsteins? No, Berensteins, I come back. A new breed. They give special milk if you see they get beer to drink. What kind of milk does a cow give from drinking beer? Malted milk. Stupid, I tell him. That is why I ordered this beer. What is more, I wish you to deliver 24 more cases every day in the future. I would like to see such cows, Thin Tommy says, climbing out of the truck. I back up to the barn door. They are too drunk to look at, I execute. Out comes another burp, making the door rattle a little. I still say that does not sound like a cow, Thin Tommy insists. Take my word for it, I tell him. That's no bull. The story is excellent. The story is excellent. It's excellent. I'm really getting into it. I hope you are too. I don't know whether I'm going to read more because I don't know how much I've recorded, but it's probably a fair bit. And unfortunately, the storage space on my phone is not big. My editing equipment is shit. Sorry, editing equipment. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't want to publish long videos yet, or probably ever. We are enjoying ourselves. You, I, Teddy, Guy feeding alcohol to a dragon, and Edgar, Larry, and Archie. This is a really good story. Okay. Before I'm likely to prattle on with more crap, because I could, but I won't. I will see you next time. We'll probably read the rest of this story. I don't know. Maybe not. I think we're about halfway through, so probably 2 more, which is good. I mean, that's consistent, because the last story was 4 episodes. This one's way better than the last story. I really like these. Yes. Thanks for joining me. I hope you can join me again for our next installment. I haven't mentioned yet that I will be reading a few weird tales and stuff, because as you know I love it. But at some point I'm going to start reading Carnacki the Ghost Binder, I think it is, by William Hope Hodgson. They're short stories, and they're like my favourite, so I'm going to be reading those. And also I've got the book, so I don't have to read off a computer screen. It's just going to be so much better. Alright, thanks for joining me. I hope you're having